Right, so let's get started then. So how to get it built, that's what we're going to be talking about today.
Okay, everybody, this is hopefully an interesting talk. I got slightly taken aback by the number of questions that we got. Pauline sent me them just before the webinar started. Had I got them earlier, I'd probably tailored this presentation slightly differently, because a lot of them were issues around funding and stuff like that. And if we want, when we get into the questions, I'm happy to stay on for as long as we need to get through the questions. But at the moment, let's go through, because a lot of the questions were about, okay, how do I pick a contractor? You know, what's the difference between building with a contractor and building myself? What kind of skills do I need and qualities do I need to have to allow me to do that? So this presentation is pitched very much around answering those kind of questions. I should say as well that building is the sort of second last part of the journey that you go on in property development, the last part being the sales and marketing and getting it sold. But immediately prior to that, there is all the pre-construction stuff that you have to do post getting your planning and pre-building. So pre-construction, you'll have seen, in fact, I think a number of you registered. We have a little mini series that we're going to be doing tomorrow and again the following Thursday, where we're going to sort of unpack that for you, showing you a lot of the types of surveys that you've got to get, how to discharge planning conditions, looking at cost planning and how you manage all that, going right through the whole process to the point of looking at building regulations, appointing contractors, the form of contracts to use, etc., etc., etc. So essentially covering the period in the journey from you've got your planning application, now what, to this point here, getting it built. So I'm trying to, it would probably be nice if we'd have done it the other way around, but I ended up getting caught up in other things, wasn't able to pull this together quickly enough, but it's all ready now to go for today and for tomorrow, so I hope you are able to join us as well. I think Aidan is going to be putting the link in for registering for that mini series tomorrow and Thursday, so please take advantage of that if you would. It'd be good to see you all there. Anyway, I always think with these things it's important to when it comes down to it to actually say who you are and why you should be doing this and giving this kind of talk. You will need to forgive me if I hesitate at some points, because when I started practicing this across the network, the slideshow was running quite slowly, so I have already clicked for the next slide, and it's not coming up yet, but I will persevere and wait. And if it doesn't work, then I'm going to have to hand back over to Pauline and she can run it maybe from hers. Okay, it's still not coming up, but I'll crack on anyway. On this basis, it will show up when it shows up. So I've been doing this type of thing, getting it built, for a fair amount of time. Pauline said a lot more than 25 years. I don't know if it's a lot more than 25 years, but it's certainly it's been a while. I started this thing in 1992, and in essence, from then I've built over, I don't know, I'd struggle to count. If I was to hazard a guess, I'd say somewhere between 400 and 500 places that people call home. I've done that over multiple sites. This is the smallest thing that I've done. Is actually, I'm in the process of doing it. No, beg your pardon, it's not. I did one project that was 3 units, and then beyond that, I got on to I got on mostly to 25 to 50 was my sweet spot. And so in terms of the number of units, I want to show you the type of things that I built. So this, if you just hang fire, Pauline, just as I'll go through them. Okay, so this, I'm showing you some here.
It's doing it automatically, Alan. I'm not clicking on that now, so I don't know what's
all right, that's even better. Okay, this is going to be good fun. So I think that's probably taken account of clicks that have been done before. Anyway, you'll see these properties all look the same. They were very, I had 8 house types and estates that I did, that I built out, I generally used this type of house type. The picture on the bottom left is much more likely from where I built than the picture in the top right. I think that one has been photoshopped. You never got very many days like that with clear blue skies. Much more dark grey clouds. So these are all up. I just wanted to give you a flavour of the type of things I've done. This was on that site that just came up there. That's up in Perthshire. This one is in Fife. That's actually, if you stop at that one, so that's the inside. The one on the top left, I nicked those photographs from a sales page, where on one of the sites they were actually showing that, and that happened to be the inside. The bedroom was that one that Pauline's showing there, master bedroom, and in that one, so that's above the garage on the plot in the top left, and we designed that specifically so that we could have a 6 metre by 6 metre space. That was more or less what we wanted to create, which would be bedroom and ensuite and dressing room. So the door that you can see there took you into the ensuite, and then unfortunately not shown, but there was another door that took you in the dressing room. So I also have done a bit of commercial. So this type of thing was fairly typical. I built quite a few of those, both as a developer and as a contractor. The developer, we'd find sites. This ended up being, we built this out for a co-op. So we had this pre-sold before. It was just an odd bit of ground that was up in the far north of Scotland. And yeah, lovely little bit of business because nice and easy to build, and nice yield. We had that pre-sold as well before we had it, before we actually built that one. Next again. Oh yeah, and another dark sky. This is one. This is an unusual one because that was all bespoke designs. So the council weren't happy with what we were putting in, what I'd originally proposed, which was properties like the one up in the top left. So we had to come up with brand new designs for this one. This was only a small site. This was like 13, 14 units. But yeah, that was basically it. This one is just like, this is all about getting it built. So the kind of images beforehand have been type of things that I've built. Here's some images as they're getting built. So this, for example, this was a lounge and we were heating with underfloor heating. So you can see we've got underfloor heating pipes in. And then these were bifolding doors that were coming out there. I should say as well, you'll notice that these are all, pretty much everything that you've seen here is timber frame. And so that's largely what I've been building since about 1997, I would say. Exceptions at the moment are 2 sites that we're building just now are both traditional build, both in England, and I didn't particularly think it would be that, but that's what we've ended up with. Anyway, this one on the left here that Pauline just put up there, that's actually a swimming pool in a house type that we did, where we had it was on the same estate as the top left photograph, but we had to modify it. I did a special build for a family who had a severely disabled son, and we put a whole kind of leisure suite in where there was pool, you see the jacuzzi at the end, and there was also a sauna and a steam room, and then quite a nice sort of leisure area. So, and there are certain things that you've got to do in terms of building that. This is just, again, when we're talking about getting things built, one of the things that you look at, and I suppose, all I'm doing here is I'm showing you there is, over the years, I've had a fair bit of experience. These type of joists I would heartily recommend to everybody. They are slightly more expensive. So these joists are web joists. Now you get, I'll quickly just talk about that because we're on it as we're talking about something getting built. You get solid joists, you get eye joists, which are almost like where you've got that mesh. You have like a piece of OSB. If you don't know what that is, then we're going to struggle a little bit, but it's like an eye-shaped joist, if you like, where the top and the bottom are pretty much as you see there. That's one form of joist. This is a web joist. Web joists are very good, not because of anything, right? I suppose technically they're very good. They're just a strong use, far less timber. The big benefit of these things is they're incredibly easy to run services. And so if you've got your plumber running pipes or you've got your electrician running wires, they don't need to drill through joists. So that saves them a lot of time, saves you a bit of money. So although these joists themselves are slightly more expensive than an eye joist or a standard solid joist, in terms of whole cost of ownership or whole cost of development, as I look at it as, then again, I've been using those since they came out, which I think was certainly before 2000. Can't remember when. Initially, they came out, had hellish problems with squeaking, but they fixed them. You know, when people would walk on the floorboards and the thing would squeak, and well, we had such a lot of bother. And some of the very early ones, which now they're just rock solid, absolutely fine. Oh, there's that. So sometimes you build a roof on the, depends on the sections. This happened to be a particularly big roof for a house that we were building in St Andrews, kind of one-off build. And so it was easy to build it in sections on the floor, on the ground, and then actually just crane it up, because we were needing a crane for a few other things anyway. And so again, it's a fairly standard thing, a fairly straightforward thing to put together, but just showing you a means of, you need to be able to be pretty versatile to do lots of stuff. This one and the next photograph, although I do mostly new build, this was a conversion. So this here, God knows where the palm is, this is also up in Fife. They obviously planted these after I'd left. So this here was an old steading, and it came with a site, and I didn't really know what to do with it. And so initially I was thinking about putting 3 properties in, so it's U-shaped, as you can kind of make out from there. But what we ended up doing was we created one really nice house, because steadings tend to be, if anybody does barns or steadings, I've got a good friend who just does, who does a lot of barn conversions. And the challenge with a barn conversion is they tend to be quite narrow. And so by the time you put your circulation space, i.e. your corridor, you end up having, you can have rooms that are really awkwardly shaped, like very wide, but very narrow. And so the way we got around that was we effectively built this glass circulation space, which made the rooms a decent size. And then the image that was behind that, yeah, okay. And so this part here was actually where these table and chairs were. You've gone back one too many, Pauline. Just forward again. So where these table and chairs were was actually the circulation space that we made in and around. So to the left of this is where the light's coming in, and then you can see inside we've got a kind of more formal dining area that we took some of the wall out and put these glass panels in. In essence, we created a fantastic space, really, really sought after property that way, and we sold it for a fantastic amount of money. But it's one of these things, as a developer, what you're always doing is you're always thinking about how you can maximize the things that you've got. So I don't normally do conversions. I don't like them. In my mind, they're a bit risky. I much more prefer new build. I kind of put 20 images in so you could see this is, and it's amazing when you look at these things. God, they take you right back. This was the kitchen of a time when that kind of kitchen with a little sort of family snug that we put on the back. That was very, very much state of the art at its time, whereas now it looks quite tired and dated, but just shows you. That would have been mid-2000s, something like that, I think. Another property, just looking at the back and looking down a row. That one is just a recent conversion of an old building. I do conversions, but don't particularly like them. Oh, this was when I said this was the smallest one that I've done, which I wanted to show you. This was a new build of 3 townhouses that we held on for a while for student accommodation. So we did that in probably, I'm going to say, oh, time flies, that must be like 2012, I think we did that. And so all of that was, this was one of the first, this was an experiment from my point of view. I wanted to build a passive house. So these 3 were passive houses. We had to rebuild the harbour wall. This is up in St Andrews, actually, a fabulous location, right at the right in the mouth of the river there. So harbour. We also did little gates in the middle of the wall, so if people wanted to moor their boat there, it was student accommodation. So it was that we kept it for a while. So it was actually maybe not the best idea, but anyway, we sold these on again for a really handsome profit at the time. And so it doesn't have to be big developments. This one, just to give you an idea, it was a was an old kind of gas cylinder in there, so we had to do a lot of remediation to the ground. But as a consequence, we got the land fairly cheap. Also, you have, when you remediate land like that, you can really save yourself a lot of tax. There's a capital allowance for remediating land that gives you 150% of what you spend as a tax credit. So from that point of view, it was a good site to take on. Plus, great location. A lot of people had looked at it but never taken on because they were a bit uncertain in terms of how to deal with the remediation. So in this respect, we had we went about that one, got the whole thing built. This was built timber frame with the external envelope being, so the cream stuff that you see was actually just insulation. There wasn't a single brick used on that building above the underbuild. Everything else was timber frame, timber cladding on top, or like a kind of Euroclad product. So it's a composite panel, slates on the roof, and then it was just insulation with render directly onto the insulation. And that achieved full kind of passive house ranking. I'm getting bored now, you must be as well. So this is just showing again the inside of a typical build at the time. This is what we're going to talk about today. So how to build it. In that, I'm not going to talk to you about groundworks or or actually a superstructure or fitting it out or M&E or anything along those lines. I'm not going to get technical like that. It might be interesting if there's enough of you interested, I might be interested in doing something like that again. But this one is looking much more at how to build in terms of using a main contractor or looking to do it yourself and employing subcontractors. So that's one of the things that we'll look at. We'll then look at putting together a build program, because again, really, when it comes to building, there are three things that you need to look after, right? Time, which is where your program comes in. Costs, so budget is really important, super important, and one of these relates absolutely to the other. So time is money. You've heard that phrase. It's never more so than in building, for absolutely sure. And then the third thing that you've got to take a very close eye on is quality. So budget, time, quality. These are the three things. If you can manage these three well, then you'll have a successful build. In terms of putting a program together, we're going to talk about how you do that. I'll cover some of the key things that you need and some of the tools that you can use, but then also we will cover again the tools that we use. So when it comes to that, we're going to look at a specific program that we use, which has been an absolute godsend during this past COVID time, in terms of allowing us to manage the build remotely. And that's made an incredible difference to my life, particularly. So we're going to spend a bit of time on that. And this isn't a sales cast, if you like, for that particular product. It's not one of our own, it's a product that we've bought. But I want to show you the type of things that you can do. If you think you can't do this build on your own, then I'd like to show you that with certain tools, with certain experience, with certain partners in the right place, then this is very much doable from your point of view. So this is really talking about the main contractor's role versus building yourself. And there are different qualities that you require as an individual for both. This is a site I mentioned earlier about I build everything timber frame, and yet at the moment, this picture was taken just a couple of days ago from a site in down in Devon that we're currently running on, and it's so socially distanced that you can see there's nobody there. Half a yellow jacket you can see. I guess the site manager's gone out at break time because progress has taken place happily. So we're already up one story there. We've got garages built in the corner, as you can see, but we're building this one out ourselves, which is our kind of route now on both. And I was reflecting as we were talking about getting it built. I thought that what I do is give you some thoughts on some of the challenges that we've had, because I guess I noticed that one of the questions that came in, I don't know who posed it before the webinar, was what lessons have you learned and what challenges have you had on your development projects? So I come from a school of thought that says this type of thing isn't easy. If you want to go get rich quick, then this isn't for you. I can say that categorically, hand on your heart. If you are not resilient, if you don't have resilience in your character, then get off the call just now, because actually everything about what you do, whether you do this with a contractor or whether you do it yourself, resilience is one of these qualities that you absolutely need, and that's right through the development program. And those of you who've done kind of multi-unit developments will attest to that, I'm sure. Nothing happens as quickly as you want it. Nothing is as cheap as you want it. But it is still immensely rewarding. It's immensely rewarding on a number of levels. One, and after a while, this becomes the most important one. You appreciate and understand that what you're doing is you're creating something which is going to last way beyond you. So there's very much a sort of legacy element of this. I love going back when I went out, and this was in a presentation that we did a while back. I trolled out these pictures. I can remember driving around some of these developments that I hadn't been to in, oh gosh, some of them like 12, 15 years I hadn't been. And there is nothing more satisfying than going past them where you remember it as a field, and you effectively you remember all the painful moments that you went through to get your planning in place. You remember the painful moments of the build, but you also remember the near ecstasy of leaving the site for the last time, because with every site you're on, there comes a time when you just got to get it finished and got to get off. But it's great going back and you see, kids playing out in the streets, and you have cars in the driveway. You just see a whole community that's at play, and that community happened because you had the courage of your convictions, you had resilience, you had a vision, and you went about and you acted on it. And so, it is great from that legacy point. It's also great that if you do it right and you go about it properly, and there is a definite way of doing this properly, then the financial rewards are very good as well. There's no denying that. It's not get rich quick, but it is get rich reasonably predictably. There can be curveballs that are thrown in, like for example, the one that we've got just now will be interesting. There were a number of, I'll leave that bit until the end, because there were a number of questions about COVID-19 that Pauline might pick up on and ask later on. I've got some pretty strong opinions on that whole thing. But anyway, let's look at what I want to do now is just look at the kind of building with a main contractor, the type of things that you need to take into account. Now, this image here is actually another one of our sites, and we employed a main contractor, and this is what he left us because it was an absolute mess. We employed a main contractor. The main contractor and I fell out over lack of progress, lack of sequencing. It was just, he had a 7-month program to build 5 houses, which, if you go about your business okay, is absolutely fine. 5 houses being the first phase of 9. And this was month 8. And you can see what we've got. So when it comes down to it, there is a process that you've got to go through in working with a main contractor. I showed this picture because on the very next slide, and don't go there yet, Pauline, please, just stay where we are. On the next slide, I'm going to show you the site. So this was about 4 or 5 months ago. You'll have to forgive the maniacal barking dog in the background. There's nothing I can do about that. Somebody had the temerity to ring the bell. Anyway, yeah, on the next slide you'll see another picture because it's one we're building ourselves, and the next picture is kind of 4 or 5 months on. Bear in mind, well, actually 6 months on, but we've lost 2. So I'll put that into perspective, and I'll come back to that. When you get to do is you need to tender. Now, I'm not going to talk about the tendering process because that is a pre-construction thing. And from a pre-construction point of view, we're going to be covering that tomorrow, and again on, this will more likely be the following Thursday, that is going to be in place. But tender is one of the things that you've got to do. Tender is where you effectively put together all your drawings, all your working drawings, your building regulations drawings, everything like that, and they then go out to a series of contractors that you are interested in talking to, and you ask them to price up the work that you're asking to do, in the hope that you arrive at something that approximates a fixed price. There is no such thing as a fixed price contract. Don't believe what anybody says on that score. On every site, you will have variations. You might think you've got a fixed price, but the reason why funders always insist on a contingency is because they know that you're going to end up with variations and things that you can't control, unknowns that you will find as you, particularly under the ground, as you go about your business. And so the tender process is important, but it's important to understand its limitations. One of the things that we're going to cover in the pre-construction mini series that we're doing is also cost planning, and how you, because that's kind of foundational right through the start of, from the very start of you thinking about developments, right the way through until you finish on site. Cost planning is something that's very, very important. And so again, that will be one of the first things that we cover off in the pre-construction gig that we're talking about then. Due diligence. Whoever you end up getting into bed with as a contractor, it's really important that you do due diligence on them. In this scenario here, this one where we ended up falling out with the contractor, we had got some good references, and we'd met with them. We had some really good conversations with them. They came recommended from somebody that we trusted, and yet it still didn't work out. So it didn't matter, the diligence that we ended up doing on this wasn't good enough. Either that or something changed from when we started our diligence, and that's what it turned out to be. So the contractor had another project, slightly bigger than our one, and he ran into trouble in that project. And as a consequence of running into trouble, he was having to effectively rob Peter, us in that case, to pay Paul, the other project, because he'd got in trouble there, which meant everything slowed down on site, and he couldn't fulfill his obligations to us here. And so we had a very traumatic number of months at the tail end of last year, beginning of this year. In fact, no, it was tail end of last year, beginning of this year, when we had to get rid of the contractor and start out on our own again. And of course, when you take something over like this, you're effectively starting from scratch. And so starting from scratch is a horrible thing when you're halfway through a job, because we didn't have any subcontractors appointed. We had to go back out to market. We realised very quickly that he didn't have anybody else appointed other than the bricklayers and the groundworkers, the initial groundwork that went on. And so we ended up in a place that was very difficult to manage, but we focused on it. We went about our business. We got some great professional help, which made our life easier. And we got a site manager in as early as we could. And we started back on site, and then we were able to kind of crack on. But we lost probably about 4 months of productivity. So it put this whole development, which should have been a nice, easy development, it put it under a bit of pressure. And even though we'd done our due diligence, which we felt we'd done well, it's still there. We have recovered that, and then we've had COVID. And so COVID, we're hoping that because our first five houses that we're putting on there are all but built now. Within the next 6-8 weeks, we should have all 5 houses available for sale, and then we'll see the true damage that COVID has done, if any. This is in the countryside on the North Norfolk coast, and we hope that the quality of the area is one that's going to attract people, and that certainly seems to be the case from what the agents have told us just this week. When we had a chat to see we had a lot of interest before because we hadn't released any. We had a lot of interest before through agents, and that seems to have held up, which is good. Form a contract. So again, this is something that we're going to be talking a lot about in the pre-construction mini-series. For now, I want to highlight that there is the construction contract is extremely important. Construction law now gives an awful lot of protection to the contractor, and it also gives a lot of protection to the developer. Developer in the form of, if you end up, if a contractor goes off, if you've filled your contract in properly and got the right type of contract, then you can claim damages effectively from your contractor if he goes over time. He has got a certain thing that he or she has to do when they want to claim variations or extensions of time because of bad weather and everything like that. So the types of different contracts, and they are varied and many. So we'll cover that at length in the pre-construction mini-series, because it's important that you have. It's a pretty dry subject, but it's still really important that it's something that you understand. Project management is something that if you go with a main contractor, you need somebody to act on your behalf. Now that would typically be, so for us in this regard, we did two things. One, we visited site regularly. When it's with a main contractor, you've got to be very wary. You don't want to be there all the time, but equally you've got to be there on a reasonably regular basis. You have somebody acting on your behalf who will validate the part of the contract. It explains exactly what happens on a monthly basis when the contractor wants paid. He's got to do certain things, you've got to do certain things. So part of project management is having somebody who performs that function for you, so that if you like next click as well, Pauline, because it covers both things. It is contract administration is what's going to come up when Pauline clicks it. So you've got both these things. You need to administer the contract, which means you have payment notices that you've got to give out on a monthly basis, or withholding notices if you don't agree with the payment request that the contractor has put in. And so these things work hand in glove. So typically what we did is we appointed a QS to be our project QS and act on our behalf in terms of keeping an eye on the site, making sure it was all going fine, and administering the contract to keep us right with the contractor, which meant that when we had a problem, we were able to serve notices in the formal way of the contract and not be left wide open for a claim down the road where the contractor can take you to adjudication, and all sorts of pain can ensue from there. So main contractor route, why would you do that? Why would you go down this road? Because there are definite positives and definite negatives. If you have a contractor that you trust and you have and they come across and can evidence the fact that they're not contractual, because it is so important that you can save yourself a world of pain. There are a lot of contractors out there who will give you a cheap build price for a building and then absolutely screw you on extras. I've had that happen to me previously, in between 2008-9 when the financial crash happened, and I had to relinquish my house building company at that point in time, and then post that, some developments that I did, I got contractors in to do it for me, things that I was able to hang on to and build out, and I literally got raped in these things from a cost point of view, which is horrible. And so, that's happened. I've had one or two bad experiences with main contractors, this being the last of them, this site that I'm showing you here. But if you can get the right contractor, it can be a very good experience. As Pauline mentioned to you, we do our own contracting and we contract for others as well. We're absolutely not contractual. The reason why we do lots of things like this, digital events and do training and do all sorts of other things, is actually because we figure this is one of the best ways of getting our message out at the type of people that we are, the way we approach things, the way we go about our business. We try and be thorough and fair. There is the right price for every build. We are not by any means the cheapest. We like to think that we price things properly. And so if any of you got any building work that needs done and it's in the areas that we operate in Norfolk, Suffolk, and also into Devon, and we'd like to be in sort of North London up towards Cambridgeshire. Anywhere in there, if you have anything at all that's coming up, then please give us a shout. That's my plug finished. So build yourself. This is exactly the same site as the last picture that I showed you, and this was taken 2 days ago. I had to put this picture in, and you'll see these houses now are all pretty much finished. We are doing at the moment, we're doing the roads, and we're kind of just getting all our levels sorted out. The finishings are all going on internally now, and so we're all moving forward at pace. So building yourself can be good, but I have a question. That is the sort of first point that I want to ask, and I'd be interested to get some feedback. Simply ask the question, why? Why would you build yourself over building from a contractor? If you can plonk these in the chat box and have Pauline or Aidan just monitor them, those of you who can put something together, that would be greatly appreciated, because I'm really interested. I know my why. I mean, there is an element of it from my point of view. I've been building for 20 plus years, and so I'm not in any way daunted by it. But if you're starting out early, why would you go down this road, which is effectively you're hiring subcontractors? I mean, I'll tell you the way we put this.
Okay, and just for your feedback, Alan, the in answer to that why, the comments that are coming back is control of cost, cheaper cost, quicker, enjoyment, learn a lot, lower build cost, control and satisfaction, more control possibly. I would love to, but I might struggle to get the next few months. So mainly it's around control and cost, I think, is the feedback that's coming back.
Yep. Control is a two-edged sword. I can tell you that. So it depends what you mean by that. In terms of control is one of the big reasons that we go and do this, because I felt totally out of control when we had the main contractor in that was behaving badly. That's a horrible place to be, and so it was a case of it took us 3-4 months to actually go through the process from them being on site to being off site. And so that was a really hard time. But so control is one thing. Costs, if you are doing it yourself, the temptation to change things as you go along is sometimes overwhelming. Whereas with a main contractor, you tend not to. You tend to be on site a lot more if you're here, if you're building yourself. So cost is certainly true, because I guess you're not putting the main contractor's margin on. The way that most things work is main contractors will put a margin on top of subcontractors. So for basically managing the process, they'll do that. Typically, what we've found, and this is if we're asked to go out and commercially put something out there, then typically we would be looking at putting about 25% margin onto our subcontractors. And our subcontractors in turn, they will operate at a similar margin level. So it'll be 25% on 25% is effectively the possibility of what you can save. Subcontractors you'll not get away from that unless you employ the people. From our point of view, we employ the ground workers. We supply the plant and the management of that whole system, and we then do our own groundworks, but everything else we more or less sub out. Historically, I've always had ground workers who also double up as doing all the external works. So they not only do the foundations and the underbuild, but they will also do the roads and the drains. And then at the end of the job, they'll do the gardens for you as well. And so I find them quite diverse. They'll do all the slabbing, any monoblocking, pavers that you need. They'll do all that. I also employed a lot of carpenters as well. The same reason that they tend to be, if you're changing anything, you tend to use these guys more than anybody else. If you're building timber frame, certainly. And so as we are building largely traditional at the moment, we haven't employed any carpenters, but that'll be our next step. So if you're building yourself, what are the qualities required? I probably covered that right back at the start. Resilience is a big one. Patience is another. You have to really understand this. You have to be organised, or if you are not organised yourself, you have to have others within your team that can organise, and you have to be able to see the whole thing. If you like, you have to be able to stand back and see the bigger picture. That's really important on one level. On the other level, you have to be so detail oriented. I have developed, normally you don't find, but I've developed the ability to do both over the piece, and so, but it took me a while to learn that. But these are important qualities, because I suppose the thing, having your site team is super important. So what we do here is we employ ground workers, we employ a forklift driver, and we employ a site manager. Forklift driver doubles up as a labourer. And the site manager is the most important member of that team, because he's got to be somebody that you can trust and somebody that you can communicate with. So with the guys we've got, we've gone through a few, but you know, we've settled on the guys that we've got now, and that's really helped. It helps if you can get recommendations for them. Finding them is just like finding any other member of staff. It can be very, very difficult, but it can still go on. You can still get there in the end. Good site manager is organised, has got a lot of experience. So if you don't have a lot of experience yourself, you can lean on a site manager to help. Where experience really helps is that you can tell whether the site manager is a good guy or a bad guy, and whether he's telling you everything that you need to know. So experience can show you that. Project management is kind of project management, and not contract administration, but contractor administration is important. So you have to be able to do run both these things, if you like, at the same time. We have a thing where under normal non-COVID times, we would be we'd basically be visiting the site twice a month. That's my routine. Try and get on site twice a month. It gives enough time for good things to happen. Most site managers work in 2 weekly cycles, so when you go in, you'll be able to discuss with them what the next 2 weeks are going to look like in terms of productivity. You can then, using the tools that we're going to show you in a little while, you can then go ahead and view that in real time as it's happening day by day. And then a fortnight later, you go on site and you can see what's going on. Contract administration, we also employ a QS, and his job is effectively to take all the valuations that come in from the various subcontractors. So rather than having in previous life where you've got a main contractor, you have one valuation coming in. In this scenario, they may well manage 7 or 8 from different subcontractors come in. You also then, you have to decide whether your subcontractors are going to be labour only or whether they're going to be labour and material. Labour only is definitely the cheapest way to go, but it adds another layer of organisation onto it and another layer of cash flow onto it, because you end up having to buy all the materials, and if you are in any way tardy in your administration for that, and you have men hanging around doing nothing on site, you will get hit for the cost of their time if you have been late in getting the materials there. And so there is a, you know, building yourself is not out with the reach of anybody who's got an interest in what we're talking about here. But there are qualities required for this, qualities required for working with a main contractor. I have a personal opinion based on my experience that I will never go to another contractor again, but I run a contracting company, and so I think main contractors are fantastic, just not for me. Or I think a main contractor is fantastic, i.e. ours. But it's a choice that you have to make, and it's one of the things that you have to do in terms of getting things built. There are many, I could talk literally for hours about the building process and all the things that you've got to kind of run through, but that's not what I was aiming for here. I was aiming for giving you some principles of the type of project, because I'm assuming that you're all looking to be developers and not necessarily hands-on builders. But I'm giving you the angle from both. And what we're going to look at now is one of the other key skills, which is putting a building program together. So this is designed to show you nothing in particular, this particular slide, other than the fact that building programs, they take up a lot of paper and a lot of thought to put a program together, because you've got to have things running in sequence. And that's one of the key things with building. When you take something like this, which is high level Gantt chart, this particular build program has got another, and I couldn't fit them on actually, it's got another 2 similarly packed slides, or similarly packed sheets as well that run, and that's a 35 house program that runs from start to finish. So it's kind of taking you through that. If you go to the next slide, Pauline. So one of the tools, you need a program that actually allows you to build properly. And so this is Microsoft Project. So this is easily accessible to anybody. But if you like, this is the level of, so when you're running a build program, there is a need to put all these elements together. And this is like, first 2 or 3 lines of at the top of the last slide on the left-hand side, just the first few pages. And it shows you from a timing point of view where we were. This was a site that we were supposed to be mobilising on the 6th of April. As you can see, the mobilisation 6 days. And we lost this because of COVID. So we've gone through, if you look from the top there, we've compiled a list of tenderers. These are subcontractors we're going to. We've created tender documentation in Procore, which is one of the tools we're going to talk about in just a little while. And then we sent the tenders out, but we've got none back, because I tend to find there is a culture in the building industry that is, if you send somebody out and give somebody, I don't know if it's just building industry, it could be the world over. If you give somebody 4 weeks to do something, then they'll look at it with 2 days to go. And then they'll try and rush it all out. But what you'll probably always get is, can I get a little bit more time, please? Because I'd love to tender for it, but I'm not quite finished. 2 or 3 weeks later, you get your stuff back in. So tenderers, sending out tenders and awaiting returns. I give 5 weeks generally. I give 4 weeks, and then expect it in the 5, and I push from week 2. So they have a fortnight to get it, and then we start sending out. We've got automated reminders within our tendering system that actually go back out and bug the hell out of the contractors in the hope that that causes them to actually work. You'll see there on the right hand side, you'll see I also put in here the type of plant that we require to do various things. And there's, if I could show you along to the right, some of these ones go on and on and on, and they will also include the people that are involved to do it. And so you have on this one, for example, we've got a box culvert, there's a ditch that runs in front of the site, and we've got to create some accesses over it, and so we've got to essentially culvert in the whole thing. Culvert is just it's effectively a section of concrete that goes in that ditch. You dig the ditch out, create a channel. Because it's in Norfolk, there is an internal drainage board that you need to get an agreement for to allow you to do that. So we've got all that in place. And this was then the programmer time to do that. So I've allowed section 1 10 days to put that in, and there's various things that are in there. So a program is, if you understand how to build, then a program is a straightforward thing to put together. If you don't know how to build, then you need somebody to help you, or you need somebody to do this for you. From our point of view, we program everything we do. For any developers that we work with, we tend to work with developers who are fairly new at it. It's maybe their first development, or maybe done 2 or 3, and they want not only a contractor that they can trust, but they also want a little bit of hand on the development side. Then we can help them on that basis as well. In terms of putting a build program together, next slide, please, Pauline. There are again a number of things that you have to think about and be, and I'm just going to run through these fairly quickly. The first one here is you need some level of experience to put this together, because actually, interesting picture. You look at this. Yeah, just put them all up, Pauline. There's another 2 after that, and I'll cover them off. Fine. So if you look at this picture, you can see here that several things are going on. So we've got some block work hanging on the left, the top of the picture there. We have some. If you look at the kind of units that are here, we've got a beam and block floor that's gone in. That's effectively what these things are. We've also got our drainage stacks in, and we've also got our. It looks like that's probably our water incomer that's coming in there. And so if you even just think about getting to this point, you have had to do your reduced level dig at the start. I'm not going into a lot of detail, but you'll have had to put your foundations in place. You'll have to done your poured your foundations, done your underbuild, backfilled that. There's a whole host of things that you will have to have done before you can get to the point where you can put this beam and block floor in. Some of which would have been putting your drainage, making sure all your ducting is in, and it's all in the right place. Because if you get this bit wrong, trust me, everything else goes pear-shaped from here. So very important. And I guess this is, from my point of view, this is why I always employ my own ground workers, because I would rather, I'd rather do that and have the ability to control that. So if there aren't any minor little glitches, it's not going to cost us a fortune to remedy it. Fortunately, you set these things out, you do it. I'll jump on one. So you do it sequentially. You've got to think in terms of the sequences that you go through. So if you don't have the experience and you're not using us as a contractor, then get an experienced site manager who will be able to help you at least walk you through. Because for sure, your funder will want an idea of your build program. Now, some funders, there are funders and there are funders, just like there are contractors and there are contractors. Some funders will want something that is effectively, I'm going to start here and I'm going to finish there, and that's all they want. Other funders will want the type of thing that I showed you a few slides back. They'll want the full, the whole 9 yards. And from their point of view, they want to see that you see the second point there, realistic in this, because they will give it to a quantity surveyor or a valuation surveyor. They will ask them to comment on your program. And again, depending on who your surveyor is that is acting for the bank, that can be a good thing or a bad thing. I've never had anybody comment on my programs because I go into a huge amount of detail, far more than I do it for me, because for me, I like to build it all in I was going to say in my head, but Pauline would say I build it all in my head. Actually, I like to build it all on the computer first before we go on, so that we know what we should be doing. Timescales are realistic, so it's really important. And again, this is partly brought out by experience. You need to understand how long it takes to do any particular task. You might think that a squad of, so even looking at this picture here, you might think that, guys, if you're putting beam and block in, how hard can that be? You're just laying these beams in place. It's fairly obvious where they go, and then the blocks all go in the middle, so how hard can that be? They should be able to rattle that on a day without any problem. That'd be wholly unrealistic, would be my view. I know that putting together, that size of area, getting the beams in properly is going to take a couple of days, and getting the blocks in properly is going to take a couple of days. I'd be allowing them a week for that task, and so that would, maybe 4 days total I would allow for that task. For each plot, if you like. And so if you understand the timings, you can put together a sensible program. You've also got to understand your resources, which is the next point. Resources come in several forms. So resources are people, so people who do things. They are the materials that you buy, those resources, being able to get them and specifying the resources that you can actually get your hands on is really important as well. And then plant and machinery is the other one. You need to move materials about site, and you also need to be able to use mechanical tools to allow you to actually move on properly through the build. And so you've got to understand these, understand what they can do, what their limitations are, to allow you to put together a proper program. And the final thing to note about a program is, this is certainly true of programs that we're looking at right now, is they're very much alive, because you've seen from the program that I put together there, and I was supposed to be starting on site on the 6th of April. And we, up until the middle of February, end of February, we were on track for starting in the middle of April. But unfortunately, that whole thing has gone completely pear-shaped because of coronavirus. And we're probably, I would think, earliest we could get on site is August. And so all I've got to do with my program there is move it 4 months to the right. And because I've built it all so it's sequential and all my tasks are linked, by moving the task that is site mobilization 4 months, everything else on that chart will just move, and it'll move across properly. And that's why having the right tool is really important, so you're not doing masses and masses of rework. So build program, really important. It is one of the kind of cornerstones of good development, is to have a program in place that is alive, that's realistic, and that you get everybody bought into it. Because again, one of the things we do is we sit down on site, pre-start with every contractor, and we go through the program where they fit in. So when we're signing the contracts on the QS, we'll get the program out and say, right, you need to be here on this date unless we come back to you and tell you otherwise. And what would cause a program to fail? Well, bad weather, for example, where you can't get anything done. There's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing your builder can do about that. It's just one of these things. If the weather's bad, if it's super cold, and you're laying brickwork, for example, brickwork, you need to be 5 degrees, well, typically say 3 degrees and rising, but typically 5 degrees to lay bricks and know that they're going to set. There are many things that can cause a program to go off skew. And again, it's just important that you keep that program up to date, and that you're able then to report on it, because everything about this is really important. So we had on this particular site that you're looking at here, which is another site that we're on, this one was due to finish, and we were on target for finishing in December, was it the second week of December, I think, and then coronavirus happened. And so we're probably now looking at February, albeit because we started back quite early because of the stage we were at and where we were on the site, we were able to get significantly more workers. So we've clawed back about 2 weeks of the 2 months that we lost. So again, and from the site manager's point of view, if he can accelerate the program and keep that going, then there's a bonus on him for if he can finish when we were supposed to finish. I don't know that he will, but he's going to get a good crack of the whip. So that's the program. One of your cornerstones that you absolutely need to get right. Another one, so if I said budget, program, and quality, so how can you measure and manage quality if you're not on site? The cost part we're not covering today. I'm going to cover that as part of our pre-construction mini-series, and the cost plan part is actually part of tomorrow. I think it's one of the first things that I cover. So if you want to hear about that, then please sign up for that, where Aidan's got the link. So I'm kind of going to do a little bit of a sales pitch here for this bit of software. We use this, anybody that we build with, we give access to. So if we're building something for you, we are completely transparent. That's one of the things that you will see about us time and time again, good, bad, and ugly. So Procore is tool we use. It's an American bit of software, but it's been very much anglicized, and this has been a godsend for me, as I've been locked down here in France, with our site starting back up. I can talk to our site manager every site managers every day, which I do, but equally I want to be able to see both who's on site, what they're doing, and also I want to physically see either through videos. So we use a combination of two things. Procore is our kind of main tool. We obviously have our project, which is our program, and then we ping videos backwards and forwards. We found WhatsApp to be the best bet for that, just for getting it backwards and forwards. But I want to talk now for Procore for a second. So Pauline, if you could go to the next slide, please. The highlighting on the next slide is mine, by the way, and because I just want to go through this. I hope you can all see this. Pauline, could you make this big screen so as I'm not taking up half the screen, please?
No, you won't. People have to do it themselves from that perspective, right, Alan. Okay. They can cut you off the screen. They can kick you out of it all.
Go back one, please, Pauline. You clicked on too many. Right. Okay. So here we go. So this is effectively allows things to get built, and it keeps everything in the one place. You can see here, if you go on the right, you can see in pre-construction there is tendering. So we do all our tendering to our subcontractors through this module, and I'm going to show you that, not today, but I'm going to show you that when we cover tendering, which is next Thursday, I think, as we run through the sequence of pre-construction, because this is much more kind of built. So what is this? So we have financial management. So this is we can host our contracts, our budget, our commitments, or our purchase orders, any variations or any change events that are there, any direct costs, payment applications, all of that stuff can all be held and managed within this system. On project management, well, actually, if I jump over to core tools, these are largely the kind of admin things about it that everything else is built on. But project management, pardon me, you'll see here there's a whole bunch of them, and I'm going to pick out a few just to finish this to give you a flavour of the type of things that this can do, but also to talk about the principles involved in each one of these things as we go through, because in each one of the principles that I'm going to highlight, or each one of the topics I'm going to highlight, are really important from the point of view of managing your information, staying on top of it, and making sure that everybody is dealing with current versions and building all the stuff they should be. So you see the first thing I've highlighted there is drawings. So Pauline, if you can go to the next slide, please.
Can I just say, if somebody can only see Alan on the screen, you can slide. If you're on a mobile device, you need to slide to another screen. So you just toggle between the screens. And if you're on a PC, you can stretch the windows so that you can minimize him completely and take him out of it. So,
which is a sensible thing to do, as Pauline tries to do that all the time.
Always.
Always, yeah. So I've just shown you a little bit of a screen grab. This goes down a whole pile, and basically within here what you've got is you only ever have, because you see we've got drawing numbers, so everything's based on drawing numbers, and drawing numbers are active. You can click on the drawing number or you can click on open to the side of it. But the great thing about this is you only ever have the most current drawing visible. So as the revisions come in, you can see here we've got a revision note here of revision, is that 0 probably? I think that's a 3D model. So G, E, F, 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 and so on and so forth. So you only see the most current one, because when we upload drawings, so and we get our professional team to do this, so our architects, our engineers, civil engineers, structural engineers, whatever, whoever has been responsible for the drawing, they have their own drawing sets. So we've got an architecture set here. If I was to show you the entire screen, you would see architecture, civil, and structural engineers. These are the guys who've produced the drawings, and so they have their own sets. When they're ready, they upload a drawing using the orange button on top right. So which then takes them a dialog box. They put in the drawing and they send that up. That in turn, whenever they click publish, it overlays, so it then becomes the latest revision, so nobody can see the older revision at that point. You can go back in the archive if you need to compare versions, but what it does then allow you to do is it allows you it then automatically emails this to all the parties that get emailed that are interested in that specific drawing. And so when we set things up, so it's going right back to the tender, we have certain drawing numbers that go out to different people. So, you know, for example, the bricklayer doesn't need any of the internal drawings, but he does need the elevational drawings, he does need the sections, if he's just doing the external envelope and we're building timber frame, for example. So you'd only give him access to those drawings. So in the event that anything changed on the elevations or the sections, whenever the engineer or the architect clicked upload drawings and publish, then an email would automatically go out without anybody having to do anything, automatically go out to the bricklayer, and he would then have, he would only then be able to be notified saying drawings have changed. When he came in here, he would only see the drawings that were relevant to him, and then he would click on those and he would see any changes. And you can do a compare and contrast as well, so you can see the previous version versus this version. It can highlight what's changed. So it's a really versatile tool. It keeps all your drawings in one place. I can tell you from really, really, really painful experience, and I'm going to tell you a story while I'm at it. Painful experience of not having the correct drawing in the correct place at the right time. So I built a site down in the borders of Scotland, lovely little site. It was 28 units on a single road, so just building on both sides of the road with a cul-de-sac at the back end. But so it was essentially a linear development. Not the easiest development to build because it was on a slope, and you know, pretty much all the original buyers wanted to buy the top side of the road, which meant building the bottom side of the road was that much harder because you then had a fully occupied site. One of the drawings, the couple who bought it, lovely couple, I got really friendly with them as a result of us going wrong, but they wanted the site. It was a site with it was a house type that we had we designed, we'd been building for years, and it was a sort of an L-shaped house, and they basically wanted it swung the other way. So where it was a classic L shape, they wanted it that way, if you like. So it was, they wanted it like the opposite end of the leg of a T, if you like. Not a great description, but hopefully you get what I mean. In essence, what happened was, cut a very long and extraordinarily painful story short, the ground workers had one plan, and the timber kit manufacturers had another plan. So the timber kit manufacturer had the correct plan. So our sales team had sent that through to both the site manager and to the timber frame manufacturer to manufacture things correctly, because they took the variation. They specifically wanted it that way because of a gap in the site, gave them a beautiful view over to a church and a bridge, which were both illuminated at night. It was lovely. That's by the by. So the ground workers, the site manager never gave them the new drawing. So when they came to build the foundation, they went ahead and built the foundation. And when the kit came, the kit was the other way around. So half of it was building over the foundation. Unfortunately, it was building over no foundation. Unfortunately, we had a bit of a cover-up on site because the site manager, which is another long story, and it shows you the importance of hiring the right people and trusting it, he was misbehaving. He was getting the guy started in the morning, but wasn't paying attention to anything. He was otherwise engaged. And as a result, the house got built with half the house having no foundation under it. And my construction director at the time should have seen it, but he didn't because he wasn't visiting the site as often as he could. This happened at a time when I was on holiday, so I wasn't there, which was even worse because one of us should have picked it up. But anyway, it happened in this sort of 3-week period when I was on holiday, and the kit went up. I came back, the kit was built. We showed there was some little brickwork done around the outside. Nobody pointed in and out. Drove me absolutely mad. Didn't find out until after this lovely couple moved in. And he caught me on site one day and he said, "I've got a problem. I don't quite know what it is." And I went to go and view it, and there were signs of cracking all over the place, as this thing was effectively, it had been propped up on bricks or something. I don't know what it was. Anyway, long story short, I'll probably go on and tell that story in full detail at some point in the future, because it got rectified. I remained friends with the people, albeit it was very difficult for them and very expensive for me. But there are two things there. One, you've got to trust your builder, and two, you've got to make sure everybody's got the current drawings. We only have drawings on Procore. We don't have paper copies anywhere. Right? We might get the original drawings laminated and stick them up on the site manager's wall, but everybody knows that if they want a drawing, this is the only place to get it, because it's the current version. So that's a drawing tool. You can then export. Yeah, if you go to the next one, Pauline, please. You can see there's an export button there. If you click on that, it exports it to a PDF, and what you get is a drawing register, which is great. And you can see there, this is me. I've just printed that off in the top right, printed on Monday, the 1st of June, 2020 at 3:18. And so again, this goes down quite a bit further, but that's all I could fit on the screen. And it gives you the current revision and where everything's at, and information about the drawn set that they're in, whether for construction or building regs or whatever. But some of the building reg ones stay as they are because that's enough detail, but the construction drawings are obviously a lot more detailed. And again, we'll be covering that in a lot more detail in the pre-construction thing tomorrow and next Thursday. So you can get this, you have this record, and you can see there that it all kind of moves on. Anyway, next thing that's really important is meetings. So why are meetings important? Because you have loads of them. That's the other thing. You kind of meet with your design team regularly from the point at which you start planning this whole thing, start having the vision around the whole idea behind it, and then as your design develops, you have meetings after meetings after meetings, and then you have your pre-start meetings, and then you have your meetings on site. And so what this tool allows you to do is it allows you to capture all these meetings. It's a really neat functionality. If you can go to the next page, Pauline, please. Because here you have, this is a pre-start design team meetings. This is the first meeting of this type, meeting number 1. And basically what this gives you is, it gives you who the participants are, so who the attendees are and the company they're from and their phone number and their email address. So as everybody who's coming has got contact with everybody else, it gives an overview, which I can't quite read, but it's presumably to do with the kind of technical details and stuff like that. Gives the location, date and time, and then this is effectively the agenda. When you go through this agenda, it's then a live document, so you can then type up your notes as you go along, whoever's responsible for taking the meeting, the minutes, and then at the end of that, you can simply publish those. There's a publish and distribute, same as again. So if you click the next button, Pauline, you will see, as that comes up, you'll see here that there are the official documented meeting minutes. And so it goes on and it gives, so we had some, like at the very top there, we had an additional item that was brought up by the architect, I think from memory this was. So it was a fire officer response that we had gone out and he contacted that he'd confirmed acceptance of the proposed scheme. So whoever taken the minutes has made this note, and then but there was an action after it. So AI, that's Alec, who's one of the architects, he used to follow up with building control guys to get one of the officers back from holiday, and then in red there he's put a post-meeting action. So I've been in touch. As far as the automatic opening galaxies are concerned, we only need like one above the 3-story part as opposed to other things. And then we go on to the actual, like there's another action, so it's in. So these all get circulated automatically. So the idea is you create a meeting. So if we have a monthly site meeting where we've got parties involved, then that meeting, we put an agenda together on Procore, and the minutes are distributed in Procore. But not only that, you've then got a historic record of the whole thing. It's all nicely formatted, and so we've got a folder with all these things in it, all the meetings that take place, a whole bunch of them. Meetings generally, one, have everybody there that you need to have there. That's so important. Meetings are a really important part of building. We're doing a lot of them now virtually like this, as this webinar software that we have also has meeting software, which allows multiple cameras on the site at the same time, which is great, so everybody can interact. So you're doing a lot of that, but still you create an agenda and you have your meeting minuted, because you need to be able to go back if there are any problems at any point in time. If somebody doesn't follow through where they've meant to, then not only have you got, this is what happened at the meeting, and this is what happened at the, this is kind of what came out after it in terms of the minutes and the post actions and all the rest of it. It's also all been emailed, and any time. So for example, in red, the comments you read here were made afterwards, and all Alec, who made all these comments in red, had to do was simply press a button that said publish and distribute, and everybody who was a participant in that meeting got the new minutes and could review them and make their own comments if need be. And so a tool like this, or some manual format, if that's what you do, if you want to do that, is like massively important, because you need to keep that. And this, what this tool allows you to do, it allows the unorganized to be organized, and that's really important. Next slide, please, Paul.
Okay, I'd just like to say, everybody, I know we're running over a little bit. There's only another couple of slides to go. So get your questions in the box, so that as soon as Alan finishes the next couple of slides, then we'll be able to take any questions that are on there. And I'm sorry for running over, but hopefully you're finding it useful. If you're finding this useful and of benefit, please just raise your hand so that I know that you're still all there with us. Just raise your hand so that I know you're there. Okay, that's great. There's still a few hands coming up. So make sure that you write your questions in the box, and we'll get to them very shortly now.
Yeah, sorry, getting carried away. RFIs. Only two more things I'm going to cover, RFI and site diary, because it's really important. RFI stands for Request for Information. Now, as we go through the process, what can happen if you don't follow a system like this is you can lose them. You can lose all the information requests that go out, because somebody will just simply phone somebody else up and say, I need this bit of information, can you give me it? And there'll be an email that will go back, and it'll be between these two people, and it won't be disseminated amongst everybody who needs to know about it. So the way this captures it, so Pauline, and I think this is only one slide, just click on this, please. This is, the RFI is a sequence. So somebody raises an RFI. So in this scenario here, it's been received from Trevor, who's our QS, and he's sent copies to me, Aidan, Sean, who was our site manager at one point. Trevor gets it back, but it's also then gone out to other people as well, because the reply has come back. This is when the reply is sent back in. This is to Grenville, who's a structural engineer. Gives you the date that it's issued, location, the stage of the construction, if there's any cost impact. It's like, I need to know, very simply, Trevor's question was, I require the structural timber sizing for the garages, including the type, require wall plate sizes, and require strap centres and size. And Grenville's come back and he's answered the question. We've got the information and it's all in there. This is RFI 38, so 38th RFI in this time. Now you can see captured here, nobody's anywhere to go. So the site manager's got it, I've got it, and Aidan's got it, so we've got it as a company record. It's all there. This is a site diary. Pauline's obviously rushing me right on. It's okay, Pauline, go on.
Sorry, I did it by accident, sorry.
You were just getting too excited there. Go on. Site diary, again, is electronic. Now, every site manager will keep a diary. Most of them will keep it in an A4 book, which is great for them, rubbish for everybody else. This is the first thing I look at when I, when I start work in the morning. I know that, like, one of our site managers, his habit is to get this done early in the day, and then we've got other site managers who do it at the end of the day, which is probably when I would do it if I was being honest. But anyway, first thing I look at is, it gives me a weather report for the day. So if and this is taken from the National Weather Forecast area. We've also got a daily snapshot, so observed weather conditions as well. So if it's saying here, and where this is great is because we have a record. So you see here, this was just for the 1st of June. So this is only a few days ago. It tells us what the weather was like. I'm not going to have any contractor come back to me, even if I didn't have any pictures, and say I need an extension of time because that, you know, today, Monday, was a rubbish building day. I know it's like you kind of get better than you've got now to build, so I'm expecting to see a lot of productivity. It tells me who's on site, so we've got 7 ground workers, we've got 7 brickies as it turns out, we've got our site manager on site, and we've got 2 scaffolders in working for us. So from a health and safety perspective, I know everybody who's on site, and that's really important as well. And then site manager here puts in some notes in terms of who's doing what. So the ground workers are applying slurry screed on plots 2 and 3. The brickies are going up to lintel on plots 10 and 11. And in plot 6, the scaffolders are working. And again, this gives you a feel for the number of things that are happening at the one time. And then this is all supplemented by photographs that I can click into. So we've got a record of hundreds and hundreds of photographs showing demolition starting and the build going on. And on that site here, we have kind of now a lot of the reason we take photographs. You'll see as well, this is page 2 or 3. So the 3 pages, there's also another page of photographs, but no point in showing that, just more photos. But a lot of them we want to be able to evidence that we are complying with social distancing rules in case health and safety come to us for any reason at all. So, you know, there are pictures of workers being well spread apart. We have the site manager takes, I've told him not to put them up here, but he's got some of them every day. He takes pictures of the toilets and the canteens and the wash stations and all that sort of stuff, because we might need them in the future as a reference, because we just want to show that we're doing things correctly. Site diary is absolutely crucial. It gives you all that you need in terms of, so for me being remote, I know this is, so that site is this site, and if effectively one more click, thanks. This is what we're working towards, building this. And so all, you know, most of the images, not all of them, but a lot of them relate to this site because it's just nice to have that theme. What I put down there is effectively, this kind of thing is possible for anybody to put together. You need to be organised, you need to assemble a great team, but when you do that, you can actually get it built.